Hey everybody, it's Retro DM Ray. I'm back with you on the channel. First, I want to thank everybody that's subscribed. And if you have not, please do so. If you like this content, if you like the things I've got to say and how I say them, hit the bell icon so you're notified when I upload new videos. Leave a comment for me. Those are always great. I respond to those as fast as possible. If you want to do so, check out the other information on the channel to help support me in some way. I don't make videos constantly. I'm not in it for that. I only make videos when I'm inspired by something or something just catches me that I want to make a video about. And so then I bring that to you. And it's been a while since I've been on the channel. Other things going on in life and just not a lot of interest to kind of put things on the channel right now until today. And I was looking through some of my old Dragon magazines and I ran across this article. This comes from Dragon magazine number 180 that you see the cover picture there of. It's from April of 1992. And this article is by the author of Tanith Tier. And the title of the article is Suspend Your Disbelief. And I thought I'd read through this. Maybe you'd glean a few golden nuggets from it. I know that I did too. Not remembering that I had actually ever read this article from back in the day. And so I just thought I'd share it with you today and see if there's anything in here that you might find of value. So let's get started. It says, too many dungeon masters construct their AD&D adventures arbitrarily, creating cities, monsters, and characters without rhyme or reason. Cities spring up out of thin air, built by the whims of the DM and populated with inhabitants who apparently eat leaves and dirt at no arable farmland is in sight. The citizens spend all their time hanging out in taverns and offering the party gold and magical treasures to defeat evil monsters who romp around in empty dungeons, apparently eating cave moss and stray adventurers, since dungeons can't support balanced ecological systems. The dungeons, of course, consist of numerous underground rooms, connected by twisting tunnels, all built by little elves or dwarves or whatever, solely to harbor monsters and store treasure for adventurers to discover. If this sounds painfully familiar, then you and your DM is missing something that would be called a plot if we were dealing with a literary adventure instead of for a role-playing game. Plots are what give motivation to the player characters and ultimately give continued life to a campaign. Do you believe in magic? One of the most important elements of a plot, albeit an unseen and subtle one, is called suspension of disbelief. It allows a reader or player to pick up a storyline and accept the existence of things not known to exist, like ghosts, fairies, magic, starships, or aliens. Suspension of disbelief allows this to happen without spoiling the reader's or player's enjoyment by making him or her stop and think, hey, that isn't real. Fireball spells don't exist. Logical consistency in your adventures enables your players to enjoy this suspension of disbelief and empathize with the ghost, alien, or fairy character that has no actual existence except in the author's imagination. Logical consistency means you don't violate the rules that you have set for your universe. If you have established that magic works, it ought to work in a reasonable and consistent manner. I can say, okay, magical spells can exist in this reality. What I cannot do is allow them to be thrown around in a careless fashion. Only certain people, mages, can cast these spells after years of hard work and sacrifice, and they must perform certain specific gestures and rituals to cast them. Such spells take energy, and some of them cause a reaction in the body of the mage. I have now established a reasonable set of rules for the use of magic, a sort of pseudo-physics, and as long as I do not violate them, my players can enjoy suspension of disbelief. A fantasy role-playing game usually provides a reasonably coherent system of magic use. Sticking to that system in a consistent manner and making the events in your fantasy world fit those rules of magic will go a long way to making your campaign a believable one. If an event violates the magic system, for example, an enemy mage goes invisible with just a snap of his fingers instead of chanting the usual words and making spellcasting gestures, there should be a good reason for it. Perhaps the enemy mage has developed a powerful invisibility spell. Three-dimensional monsters. An area where suspension of disbelief is necessary but seldom invoked is in the creation of monsters. I can easily accept that there are magical creatures if I have accepted the existence of magic. What I cannot accept is that they apparently run around in underpopulated dungeons and wildernesses with nothing to eat but the occasional adventurer. The excuse that they're magical, so they don't need to eat, drink, or go to the bathroom just doesn't make it. If your monsters are intelligent, each monster race should have a culture with specific codes of appearance and social behavior, and probably a religion or creation myth that justifies its social structure or lack thereof. If the monsters are not intelligent, they had better fit into a balanced ecology with a specific prey or plant population to support them. Encounter tables should reflect this. It takes a large, steadily breeding population of prey animals to support one predator, and in any given area, it is a lot more likely that a party will meet a deer or other prey animal than a giant lizard or other predator. How did your monster evolve? Is it a natural beast that simply occupies a convenient ecological and environmental niche? Or is it a magical monster whose race was originally created by an insane sorcerer's experiments? If your monster is an intelligent humanoid, what sort of a cultural background and codes of behavior does it have? And how do these influence its interaction with the PCs? If people think the monster is a threat, why is it a threat in the first place? If you can't justify a monster's existence, you seriously jeopardize your player's suspension of disbelief. Character consistency. Non-player characters also deserve logical consistency in a game. If they are well-drawn and colorful, with realistic motives and distinctive personalities, they are eagerly accepted as real by the players. An anti-paladin who kills innocents and pulls wings off butterflies just because he's evil isn't believable as a villain. Villains can be totally psychotic, be vengeful of a past defeat or injury, worship a fiend who demands sacrifices in exchange for favors, or just be hungry for wealth or power. A motiveless villain who is bad just because strains belief to its limits. Unintelligent monsters' motives are usually pretty simple. They attack you because they're neutral hungry. Intelligent monsters should have correspondingly more complex motives, ranging from defending their territory or young to robbing you of your goods and gold if these creatures appreciate the value of such things. Even good-aligned people or creatures can be violently opposed to the party for various reasons, such as fanatical belief in a cause, disputes over land or property, rights, or a clash of cultures. To a typical elf or druid, the idea of land ownership might be utterly laughable. Who could possibly own Mother Earth? Any farming culture will disagree, and disputes might then arise over land use. The Kinder, a small mischievous race detailed in the Dragonlance books, don't even recognize individual property rights, and neither does the Inuit, the Eskimo culture of our own world. These and other cultural differences can lead to problems and result in no lack of challenges for the party. Urban organization. The cities and villages you create for your world should have a practical economy, usually based on some surplus of production, be it cattle, grain, or rare magical herbs. The government should be congruent with the local economy and cultural values. An elven culture might be nature-themed and freewheeling. Disdain authority. A human village might be crop and cattle-oriented and highly class-conscious, ruled by a council of merchant elders or experienced farmers. An orcish culture might be based on fighting prowess and a military hierarchy, and its rulers might change monthly or yearly as the assassination of superiors might be or should be considered a socially acceptable way to move up in rank. An isolated city or group might develop a specific, unique culture, perhaps similar to that of feudal Japan, which was based on honor and elaborate social rituals. A bit of forethought can add a great deal of local color to your city and the characters within it, making them easier to roleplay. An oft-neglected detail in the construction of cities is a fixed water supply, critical to any agrarian culture. Where's the water? How do the people send it to the city, and what happens if it fails? And what about sewage? No humanoid group of 20 or more can exist for long in one place without a consistent way to dispose of their waste. This is one of the main reasons why hunter-gatherer cultures have to move around a lot, not necessarily to follow game, but to escape garbage. Medieval cities either solved that problem with some sort of sewage disposal system or else stank horribly and were filthy and disease-ridden. Of course, with the assumption of working magic, the water supply or sewage system can be creatively supernatural. A good example of this is depicted in the Guardians of the Flame novels by Joel Rosenberg. In the city of Pandathaway, a baby dragon named Elagon, was chained in a pit to burn the city's waste byproducts. Said waste byproducts hit the proverbial fan when one of the heroes of the books released Elagon and left the city without a viable sewage system. The city's rulers then had to pay outrageous sums to clerics and mages to magically incinerate the garbage or have the streets piled melodiously high in no time. DMs can take their pick of methods, but should not ignore the issue altogether. Magical Deus Ex Machina. Another serious impediment to achieving a successful suspension of disbelief is Deus Ex Machina, which is the use by an author or dungeon master of any event, item, or being to solve a messy situation in a simplistic and very unconvincing manner. This appears as an arbitrary plot device when seen in fantasy novels, or a conveniently placed magical item when seen in fantasy games. A horrendous profusion of such quote-unquote convenient items acquired from quote-unquote Monty Hall DMs adorn the character sheets of many players, making a third-level thief a walking arsenal comparable to a SWAT team. What? You have 2 wands of Orcus? Even without the problem of Monty Hall referees, a character who has played in enough campaigns will eventually pick up a lot of magical treasure. 1 or 2 magical items in a party can add creative spice to the game, giving the players more options to use in surmounting their challenges. However, 1 or more items for every occasion is sure a plot killer. Try this quick trivia quiz. How many magical items were there among the entire party in The Lord of the Rings, or The Sword of Shannara, or any other major fantasy novel for that matter? Let me stop here and say, I would say from back in the day. That's a little different today. Let's continue. The answer is invariably not many. Why? Well, such items ruin the plot if at every hint of danger the heroes can whip out a magical thingamajig and neatly extricate themselves from any predicament. The vulnerability of the heroes who strain against overwhelming odds works in their favor to create an enjoyable plot. Published authors know that walking arsenals and arbitrary adventures will bore the waste byproducts out of their audience, and they don't inflict them on their readers. Many game referees would do well to emulate these authors. Finding a balance between keeping up the willing suspension of disbelief and keeping the adventures exciting isn't always easy, but it is well worth doing, as any published author can tell you, so why isn't this principle valid in fantasy gaming as well as fantasy writing? Should it even apply to gaming at all? If you want to treat the D&D or a D&D system as a game in which the whole point is to garner treasure and magic and beat up the monsters, then probably not. If you treat your campaigns as interactive adventures with your PCs as part of the plot, then the answer is most emphatically yes. For me personally, I think this is a really great article. I don't know that there's 100% of it that I necessarily always agree with, or that has necessarily even came up in my games that I've played in or ran, but that might be the case for you, especially the Monty Hall, all kinds of magic items all over their sheets kind of a thing. Yeah, that happened a lot back in the day. Share some stuff in the comments about those different kinds of things if you want to do that. Share some stories about that. Share some pictures of your old character sheets where you've got more magical items and gadgets and thingamajigs, as he said, on your sheet than you've got information about your character. I've seen those things in the past, especially when characters would try to bring things to conventions and try to get them to be able to be played at the table and those kinds of things. And, that's maybe not necessarily a bad thing. If that's how you like to play, that's great. I've played all the various different ways. So, just share those things in the comments. I'd love to hear that. Again, I'll just be back periodically when I see something that kind of strikes my fancy and I want to share on the channel. Again, I appreciate y'all watching and listening, following along all this time, staying subscribed to me. I've gone up and down with people coming and going like crazy. And so I just appreciate all of you who've stuck around this whole entire time since the channel's been going. I really appreciate it. As always, may all your rolls be nat 20s. Take care. God bless. See ya.